Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Good evening, and welcome to the on-air daily news hour for Wednesday, May 6, 2026. I'm your host, Naima Latif, and there's a lot in the news today, but we always give you the good side of the news so that you can see the world differently from the perspective of those who are doing things that make a difference and addressing the problem from a solution oriented basis. So today, we're happy to announce the bringing of the film Love Is Not Enough by filmmaker Valerie Goodloe to Kennedy King College coming up June 2nd. And we, of course, intend to be there. But most importantly, Cook County is sponsoring this film screening at this college, Kennedy King in Chicago, because we want to get a handle on what always happens in the summer: youth violence. Why is that happening? Well, there are some things we need to deal with in our communities. And one of those things is the frustration that young people feel. And it tends to erupt every summer. But mostly it's because of internal things happening to them and their families, triggered by the society. But before we get into that and bring you some words from filmmaker Valerie Goodloe, let's take a quick break and give you a thought to think about as we consider what is affecting our young people. When you see Black children misbehaving in public, being loud, disrespectful, and destructive, do you think to yourself, what they need is a good beating? That's what's wrong with these parents. They don't know how to discipline their children. Were you disciplined in that way? And did your parents also call you stupid, ignorant, and lazy? That's the way you break a slave. You terrorize them with constant fear of painful punishment. You teach them they're powerless to speak up, and you insult them so they feel like nothing. We were broken by parents who were broken, by parents who were broken. It's time to end the cycle of brokenness and bring healing to ourselves and our communities by using knowledge, respect, and love. We'll show you how. I'm Naima Latif. Get the book Slavery, the African American Psychic Trauma. On sale now. Go to www.naimalatif.com. Yes, go to www.naimalatif.com. We'll be talking about this on and on because as we prepare to launch our school, the New Earth Homeschool Academy online, the first course is entitled Parenting with Peace. And it has to do with methods of teaching, rearing, guiding, and correcting our children without dehumanizing them with violence, whether you call it a spanking or discipline or punishment, whatever you call it. If you are physically or even verbally abusing your child, you're going to destroy their spirit, and the rage that you plant is going to manifest in some area of their life at somebody. So we need better skills when it comes to creating a loving environment. Well, Valerie Goodloe speaks about the fact that our children need so much, and sometimes love is not enough. We have parents who love us, but do we have the community structure that gives them opportunities, that encourages them, that protects them from all kinds of physical and emotional assaults? Well, the film Love Is Not Enough was a labor of love. And Valerie Goodloe joined us in an interview to talk about why she made the film and what she hopes to accomplish by exposing some of the ongoing stressors in the lives of not just the children, but the parents who raise them and often are overwhelmed themselves. So we take a look in the On Air Daily News in the entertainment section. We've featured that interview, and we'll bring a bit of that to you tonight as we prepare for the changing seasons and the emergence of the energy of young people. Too often, what we end up doing is criminalizing them for being young and energetic, but often because of their frustration and lack of guidance, their expressions of enthusiasm and their desires for the social atmosphere of their friends turns destructive. And too many have said what they need is a good beating, but they've already been beat down. That's why we need to lift them up, but we need to learn how. We love them, but sometimes love is not enough. So let's hear a bit from Valerie Goodloe. And we encourage you, if you've got young people and you're in the Chicagoland area, to bring them to this film screening. We spoke with Valerie when she screened the film at Push, at Rainbow Push headquarters, right before the screening at, well, the film was shown on Channel 11, WTTW. And we had a chance to talk about the film and its potential to possibly educate parents on things that they could do and ways that they could have an impact, but also to give them some insight on what their young people are going through and why the behavior is so often destructive as they strive to express themselves. So, in this edition of the On Air Daily News, and you can go to onair.dailynews.com, we're featuring this interview and also reminding those who are in and around the Chicagoland area of where they can go to see this film. And we do encourage you to take along your children. because you need to have a discussion afterwards. The Cook County Office of the Justice Advisory Council is sponsoring this presentation of the film Love Is Not Enough. And this is for Gun Violence Awareness Month, June. And of course, that Valerie Goodloe's award-winning documentary, Love Is Not Enough, will be shown Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026 from 4 to 7 p.m. And a free community event this is, and it's honoring the survivors of gun violence and exploring pathways to change. And the agenda features dinner, a 1-hour screening, a panel discussion with the filmmaker, and you can register. There's a QR code there, and there's a raffle with a $100 gas card. So a lot of incentives. And Kennedy King College is at 740 West 63rd Street in Chicago. But this film is part of the Violence Prevention Month, and it is anticipated as our children prepare to get out of school that unless we are ready with some wholesome activities, they may end up in situations where there is violence. So let's take a look at a few words as Valerie Goodloe joins us in an interview after the screening at Rainbow Push. Grand Rising. Thank you all for joining us on this Wednesday edition of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. I'm Naima Latif, and as always, we've got a treat for you. A powerful sister who has learned how to turn pain into power, who's learned how to triumph over tragedy, and has shared with the world her gift as a filmmaker. You are going to meet Valerie Goodloe, a Southern California native. Valerie directed and produces Gang Girl, a mother's journey to save her daughter. Now, this film was nominated for Best Director and received Best Documentary Film at the San Diego Black Film Festival in 2011. And the documentary won the Audience Award at the Pan-African Film Festival in 2011. And she's got another powerful documentary. We're going to bring you an opportunity to see it if you're in the Chicagoland area in just a few weeks. You're going to see Love Is Not Enough. So we'll be right back with Valerie Goodloe, and don't you go anywhere. Stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be right back after this brief greeting to our audience. And we, of course, have been saying this all the time when we open our show, that we have the power to end violence. All we have to do is share. And that's the theme, because so much of what happens in our families is that we are not sharing. We are not opening our hearts and our homes to maybe some of those who need an uncle or an aunt when their own parents are not as functional as they need to be. And being present. So, how do we fill in the gaps when our children are in need of extra attention? Many single parent female headed households, there are some male headed households too, but many single parent female headed households have mothers who are overwhelmed and simply not able to provide everything, even though they love their children. So let's take a look at what Valerie Goodloe tells us as we look at the reality that love is not enough.
Female solution, and we got another female with a solution. Welcome, Valerie Goodloe, to the Female Solution.
Welcome. Glad to be here as usual. This is not my first rodeo with my sister, but I didn't even know really I was coming back on until yesterday.
Yes. Well, when I saw you at Push, I said, "Oh, I know she's doing something." And then when I saw the flyer, I was like, "Oh my, yeah, we got to bring this." You already have some people who are anticipating your presence. Our dear sister, who is our Monday morning mindfulness host, Zelda, she is looking forward to your appearance in. Ooh, we can't wait to hear and see this documentary. Yes. So it's already highly anticipated. And so, I know that you have used your creative talents to bring a message that really touches the heart. So tell us a bit about what we're going to see in this film, Love Is Not Enough. It'll be premiering, of course, we'll get a preview of it at the Rainbow Push National Headquarters, November 1st. That's a Saturday afternoon, 12 noon. So if you're in and around the Chicagoland area, you need to come on down and see this. But tell us a bit about what motivated you to do this film.
As you talked about before, I did a film called Gang Girl, A Mother's Journey to Save Her Daughter. And at that time, it was really focusing on my daughter, who was a gang member. But as all gang members, there's a lot of things that are wrapped around the gang member. There's violence, there's dysfunctionability. There are things that go on with our youth that is more than just being in a gang. So what I wanted to do was a film that really showed the travel of a bullet from very beginning to end, from the time that it hit the victim, and to what can we do as a community to change those dynamics. And so I started filming this particular film in 2016, and just really, I'm still continually filming because sometimes you got to update stuff and change stuff. But initially it was to be an 8-part. Well, initially it was going to be a film called Before Your Time, An Unprepared Journey. But then it turned into a docuseries because I had so much footage, so many interviews, so many things that showed a part of what was happening with violence. And it's not just the gun and the gangs. There's a whole lot of things that are happening in regards to the violence starting, continuing, and ultimately ending. And so we did a docuseries, it's 8-part docuseries that had 8 different chapters. And the last chapter is really called Love Is Not Enough. That's the last episode. But because there's so many episodes, it was just hard to really find a way for everybody to see it. So we took the last episode and added some extra footage to it and turned it into a film. And anybody who sees the film that is interested in the docuseries, we have that available as well. But the film is was initially an hour and 26 minutes. And then because WTTW, PBS saw it, and they wanted to air it on their station. So we had to edit it down from um, 86 minutes down to 55 minutes, and that was a struggle in itself, trying to find out what pieces do we cut out of this film to still make it relevant and impactful to our community. So we probably had over, I would say, 50 edits to prepare to be able to be aired on TV, and all from the language to certain scenes that they felt was um, maybe too raw, or I guess for the station.
Provocative.
Yeah. So what's happening is at Rainbow Push, it'll be the director's cut, which would be my cut. And even though I didn't go back to the full 86 minutes, it's an hour and 1 minute and some seconds. It still has the parts in it that's necessary to tell the story of our community. What do we need to do to change the dynamics? And really, what are some of the causes and reasons why gun and gang violence exists, particularly in the Black community? That's where my focus is.
So what are some of the reasons why this violence exists? We seem to, I mean, I know other communities have violence, other communities have shootings, other communities have dysfunction in the families. But in your observation, what is the main reason why these things erupt in the Black community?
Well, I think it's a multitude of reasons why. But the main thing I think is home is where the story begins. So what goes on in our homes, or what doesn't go on in our homes, what's available to our homes, and what's not available to our homes, is a key reason. One of the key reasons why violence is just a part, almost of like who we are. I mean. One of the young men in the film talk about the grandparents are angry, the children are angry, everybody's angry. He said, but well, look what's going on out here, and so out here for Black people, we're always at the end of the chain, always at the end of receiving the right services or the right accommodations or the right things that give us a pathway to maybe having a full generation of clarity, where the dynamics can change in the household. If you're not able to change the conditions, then the conditions ain't going to change. So one of the that's even come out of my daughter being in a gang is we developed a program called Women in Need of Discovering Own Worth, where we provide curriculum that deals with some of the things and dynamics that are in the household that could change if a path or things are initialized in the household, because it all starts at home. Whether it's learning about trauma and the different types of trauma that we have to go through, making our environment for our children non-traumatic. There's a little boy in the film whose his brother was killed while they were just out in the backyard playing basketball, and he died in his arms. And because of that, the whole physicality and probably the functionality of this little boy changed from being just a little boy in the backyard playing basketball to something else. And ultimately he ends up murdering somebody himself and ends up in in prison situation. But what needed to be available to him was not, and it wasn't because he didn't have a parent. It was because the things that he needed were not available to him. You can go to Parkland and all these other places where they have counselors that come into the school, and they have to the Black community, not in the way that they are to other communities. And so ultimately we're losing our children just because there's things that are not there. And even though we love our children, and even though we love our our families and stuff like that, it is not enough to change those dynamics. We need other things to change what's going on out here, especially for, and I'm just going to say, Black people.
Yes. Well, I really can identify with some of your, I guess, stressors in going through the process of examining family dynamics. I'm currently writing a book with my sisters. Growing Up Charles, that was our family name, and we're examining what was happening in the families. Corporal punishment, which was, that was the way you raised your children, but there's sometimes such severity in that it's traumatizing, it's damaging, and parents don't know. A lot of behaviors that evolved out of slavery, and then you have the brokenness of our families, because generations have been struggling with issues. A lot of alcoholism, because that's how we coped with pain, and we didn't have counseling and all of those things. So a lot of substance abuse, and then you have that, and you have the targeting of our communities with drugs and so forth, because we're a market. When people are in pain, they're a market for drugs. And this is what we experienced. And then, as you mentioned, the violence, when a child is directly involved, it witnesses it, sees it, has friends involved in it, they're traumatized. And we were not having counselors come to school and talk to the students when their friend died or they saw a horrific act of violence. We were just expected to just shake it off and keep going.
Exactly.
And no one saw how traumatized we were. No one connected our when with our emotional distress. So when it happened, no one was there to pick up the pieces. No one was there to ask our children, even talk to them, say, well, how do you feel? Or any of those things. We just take it off, keep going, go to school, get up and go to school like nothing happened, and just be in pain and shut up about it. So
exactly. And what happens is when we're involved in something that may be a crime or maybe something out of the normal thing that we're supposed to do, we're seen as a group of people that have no remorse. We don't have any feelings. But it's just like anybody. If you continually see things or things happen to you over and over and over again, your body just no longer shows or displays what you really may be feeling. So as a talk about, he didn't have any remorse, he didn't show any remorse. I mean, for years, that has been built up from things that has happened in that child's life, that he's no longer going to show his inward emotions on the outside. So one of the things that during the course of doing curriculum, I have another program. It's called Recovery After Pain, and it really focuses on trauma and the different types of trauma there is. And I was able to copyright 4 different traumas that are not really talked about or discussed, or maybe even really added into the realm of what stress is. We could talk about post-traumatic stress, which is really something that was derived or formed after a soldier was at war. But there's many other kinds of stress. So one of the stresses that I have written down is called perpetual traumatic stress disorder. When trauma is not just from the past, it's not just associated with slavery, it's just not associated with a past act, it's continual, it's over and over and over again. So as a child tells his mama, I don't want to walk to school, because every time I walk to school, and he may not even tell his mama that, every time he walks to school, he knows he has to walk through 2 or 3 different gang areas. He has to maybe accept that. I mean, so his adrenaline, his body, his fluids, everything that he's doing as he's walking to school is trauma. And so this is every day. So that's present trauma. But when it's continuous, perpetual trauma, it's over and over and over again. And so when he gets involved in something, he said, well, Johnny, Jamal, why are you doing that? I mean, you had to almost follow that path of what that youth has been going through for the past few years. There was a little boy who lived next door to us, real nice little boy. And we saw him change as he went through school in the community. And then we saw that he was getting beat up and stuff like that. And his outwardness and his ability to want to help and to show his feelings and be happy and almost like skip down the street, all that stuff ended.
Oh.
So it would look like, oh, he ain't got no feelings. He ain't got no remorse. What he has is trauma. It's perpetual. It's being embedded into him. And so when he has a child, if something doesn't deflect it or change it right then, he's going to pass that same thing on to his children. So it's kind of like inherited, as they say, or put into your DNA. I mean, the amount of fear and stuff that we may have, even if you almost notice, like Black families in regards to swimming. I mean, we didn't want to teach our children how to swim, and it's probably because back in the slave days, our kids was drowned. We had to go across a river through alligators to get to safety. Then we think about our kids being dropped in the ocean, or us being dropped in the ocean on the way from that slave trade trip over. So you wonder why Black folks don't swim. Honestly, but if something has been passed down over and over and over again, then you can understand that's why. That's why he ain't swimming.
All this trauma around water, and I hadn't thought about that because
you know what I'm saying. So that's past traumatic stress. That's stuff that is continually passed down, and it's not really spoken about. But it's just on you ain't getting no swimming lessons. No, you can't go near that water. And we talk about the violence and we talk about the beatings and stuff. So here we know that when our children were taken away in slave days, that you had to keep your kids close, otherwise they're gonna be took. So you kick your kid's ass. Kick your kid's ass and have him fearful of even walking outside that door. So when we do things physically now, it may look like we're non-caring parents, we're out of control and all that, and we probably are now because it's been so many generations past. But the reason for that was you trying to keep your kids close. If you look at if you can go to Africa, or if you go to white places where kids just can roam free and they're doing things at 5 and 6 years old that our kids don't even do at 11.
And we're shocked. We're like, how are these children
doing it? Because they haven't been passed down that fear of being able to walk outside because a serial killer is gonna get you or a bullet's gonna get you. So when you don't have those things embedded into you, you don't pass them down. You don't pass down those things, and you let your kids climb up on rocks and swim in the water. Because they talk about Black people don't swim, but you go to Africa. I mean, they're going down getting pearls. They're going down getting. They live in water. So what we've been taught is things that are not really a part of our nature. You go to Africa, we talk about we don't drink no milk here, but you go to Africa, the African's diet is full of milk, so we've been told certain things and passed down certain things that we think that are good for us or what we need to do, but it's all, it's all just misinformed stuff.
Wow.
So it's up, that's the kind of like, change those dynamics. So some of the things that we have in regards to our curriculum is just learning how to do things in a different way instead of, and just eliminating stuff and uncovering what it is about you that makes you feel a certain way about something. So the docuseries really more goes through episodes that talk about like the children's heads are always on a swivel, so they talk about what their fears are and how they feel growing up in a neighborhood where they can't even. We knew how to ride a bike by the time we was 4 or 5 years old. Children don't even know how to ride a bike or even throw a ball or do regular things because we can't go outside. So our kids' fingers is trained to a remote control. And to pick up a ball and throw it, I saw a little boy throwing a ball, and he was throwing it like a girl used to throw it back in the day.
Because his arm right.
Right, he don't know how to throw a ball because he's not being Because
Can't,
he's not
can't
being
go
taught.
outside.
He's not being taught because he can't go outside and play. Because if he goes outside and plays, then that bullet may get him.
Wow.
Kids are being taught to not put your back towards the street, not to huddle in circles, all kind of things that are being passed down to have our children fearful of just having a regular life. So all that, this is a lot of stuff.
Well, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to get a little bit of some of the things that the children are saying they're affected by, things that they fear, things that are distorting their natural childhood, and some of the ways we can either make our communities more safe or dispel the fears so that they can live a normal life. So we're going to come right back, and if you missed the first part, you need to rewind and watch that after the show, because you definitely want to hear this, and make sure you're there if you're in and around the Chicagoland area.
Well, of course, and we most certainly want to make sure that you are there at the screening of Love Is Not Enough on Tuesday, June 2nd. And that's at Kennedy King College at 740 West 63rd Street in Chicago. This is the season for us to evaluate where we are with our families, our communities, our cities, our nation, and our world. There's too much fear, and fear is often precipitated by criminal behavior, and criminal behavior is often precipitated by fear of a society that will not provide what one needs to survive. So Cook County is sponsoring this film and Gun Violence Awareness Month, and you need to see it and bring your children there, because one of the things that our children are saying, and as Valerie Goodloe speaks about, one of the things that is affecting them is the fact that they cannot experience a normal childhood because of the fear of violence. And when we can just simply have a park or place where children can play, how simple is that for us to just be able to allow our children to go outside and throw a ball and not fear there's violence. But sometimes you have to even talk to those that are the perpetuators of violence so that you can get the other side. And there is the other side. There are people who are broken. There are people who are misguided. There are people who've made mistakes. And there are people who need some kind of encouragement and motivation. There are those who are going to the jails and speaking to those that we fear might disrupt our lives. And one of those is attorney Jeffrey Levin, who has been visiting Cook County jails in order to encourage those who have made errors and sometimes ended up in court and certainly ended up behind bars. But ultimately, they needed someone to listen and even to speak. so that they could make better choices. So inmates got a pep talk from father's rights attorney Jeffrey Levin. And this gave them a different perspective on what they may want to plan differently when they left Cook County Jail. So let's take a look at some of his words of
never give up hope. It's no work that never give up. I've been a lawyer since 1979 in Chicago. Both myself and my law firm have represented thousands of clients, helping thousands of fathers, children, grandparents.
So let's see if we can bring on you can. And we want you to hear what he has to say. Because many of our young people, unfortunately, end up in the penal system. And once you get that strike, it's very difficult for people to trust you because they believe that you are among those that we must fear. So again, let us hear the words of attorney Jeffrey Levin as he speaks to Cook County inmates.
Never give up hope. It's no work that never give up. I've been a lawyer since 1979 in Chicago. Both myself and my law firm have represented thousands of clients, helping thousands of fathers, children, grandparents, we also help others. A lot of dads that I fought for have saved their children's lives. They protected their children from physical abuse. A lot of these dads have saved their children from sexual abuse. Don't give up. Your children need you. And when you're out, you need to do whatever you can do to help them. And while you're in here, you can still help them. They need to know that you love them and your love will never die with them. Fatherless girls are more likely to become victims of abuse. Boys need dads because a boy can't leave and can't see. Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I see a lot of friends here. It's an honor to be here for Jesse Jackson. And your son, who's great for following your footsteps. Thank you.
And this is one of the activities that can make a difference. Not forgetting those who have made the mistakes and ended up in prison. So Reverend Jesse Jackson, before his transition, was going to Cook County jails every year at Christmas time and taking some people with him who could address the inmates. And one of those, of course, was attorney Jeffrey Levin, who is a father's rights attorney, fights for the rights of fathers to be there in the homes for their children, to take care of their children, to see their children, to have a relationship with their children. We know that this is critical and definitely has an impact on the state of affairs when it comes to our young men and, as he said, young women, because young women need fathers too. So when we take a look at the effects of broken families and families struggling with issues of poverty and the drug abuse, the alcoholism, and we look at what can be done to stop the spread of violent activities. Well, it's, as Valerie Goodloe's film says, love is not enough. We must, as a community, provide a safe place for people to be, for our children to be. And we must provide the activities that make it possible for them to have a normal childhood, to come outside and play, to gather with their friends, and to gather with their friends and not be seen with fear and have police come every time there's a bunch of them with the belief that they're going to do something destructive. And then they need to not do something destructive so that we don't have the fear-based response to them when they gather together. There's a lot that has to be done. And all of us can participate. Are you mentoring a child? Are you involved in any type of mentoring program where you're perhaps giving your time in an after-school function, or coaching a team, or having an event, whether it's maybe a talent show or some other event that attracts young people where they can do creative things to allow them to expend that energy. All of us can participate in the process of guiding our young people to a healthier adulthood. We can do this. And when we choose to do this, then we all benefit. So we encourage you to see the film and to make sure that you bring your young people so they can have a part of the discussion afterwards. And they can also perhaps talk to some of their peers who may be involved in some of the activities that we're stressing need to not be part of our activities. So go to onair.dailynews.com, and on the entertainment page, there is Valerie Goodloe. You can see the entire interview there, and you can be reminded of the screening of the film Love Is Not Enough on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. This is one way we can begin to change the conditions in which we live, and all of us can play a part. Go to On Air Daily News, read the articles. Feel free to send us information. You go to news@onaireverywhere.com. Of course, you can go to the On Air Daily News and subscribe and get our news every day. I'm Naima Latif. Until next week, we always say, continue to shine your light. See you next time. And we'll see you in the news.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jareth. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.